Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that Zoom studio, it's time to talk about the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band. Guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the history of the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I believe our organization was founded or initially began, I want to say sometime in 1943, 44, somewhere around there, kind of around World War II time frame. And it's been active ever since then. We are stationed at Joint Base Langley Eustis, which number of changes. At one point it was Tactical Air Command, and now it's been Air Combat Command, I believe, since the 90s.
Okay.
And this is home. Where we're stationed is home with the first fighter wing, so the jets that go out and defend us when bad things are happening. So where we work, right across the road is the flight line, and you might.
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here On WYDC TV Big Fox, I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you have joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover. We have a lot of viewer comments. We've got breaking stories from yesterday, as well as some updates from stories we brought to you throughout the week. One of the, I believe, 9 budget bills have passed in New York State. 1 of 9. So you may have seen some headlines that were a little off, makes it sound like the budget passed. It did not in New York State. It is just the very beginning, and there's a long way to go. So there was another extender vote, I think the 14th at this point. So again, the budget constitutionally due on April 1st. It is now May the 21st. We're going to talk about that. We're going to see what Assemblyman Phil Palmisano had to say. I have a quote from him, not a clip, but we'll get to that a little bit later on in the program. Also, in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking to members of the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band, who will be playing absolutely free at the Clemens Center on Sunday. But let's first go to viewer comments. Why in Horseheads, New York, were there only less than 1,300 votes counted to approve one of the highest school budgets, when there are 20,000 people living in the area in Horseheads? This is strange. Maybe for another year they did not inform voters. But if you look at the numbers overall, if you just look at the numbers of people that voted, whether it's Horseheads, Corning, Elmira, they were dismal. If you look specifically at Corning, I'm sure there's more teachers and employees of the school district than actually voted. So it is shocking. People don't get out and vote. That's why we try to scream from the rooftops, not only as a reminder to go vote on Election Day, but we try, and the school board did not, various school boards not really reaching out. But yeah, it was quiet, and I think that's part of the game plan. We had a lot of people comment yesterday that they had just received in Corning Painted Post the actual rundown of the budget the day before or the day of the vote. So appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Given the circumstances surrounding Cuba, it seems likely that Cuban cigars will soon become available here in the United States once again. That could very well be the case. I guess we'll talk about Cuba here in just a little bit, but another positive. Continuing, the Democrats claim that climate change is real and advocate so-called clean energy. What's funny is they think they know more than the experts on climate change. I actually have a piece here looking back at the apocalyptic predictions of Al Gore throughout the last 20, 30 years. Kind of humorous. Continuing, regarding so-called clean energy, the super smart Democrats fail to either understand or choose to ignore the facts that all batteries, will eventually end up in a landfill. Natural gas and nuclear energy is the only way to proceed, and forgetting to add, not only the batteries will end up in the landfill, but so will all the solar panels and windmills once they wear out. Democrats are by far the stupidest people on earth, says this viewer. Well, it is a very real environmental issue. We've talked about, not to mention how they mine for some of the products that need to be in solar panels. We talked about that with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, where you get a lot of this from child labor. There's a whole lot of moving pieces. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Yesterday, it broke that former Representative Barney Frank had passed away at the age of 86. Now, he recently had done an interview where he was critical of the kind of the extreme wokeness of the Democrat Party, and he was in hospice at that time. But Barney Frank passing away at the age of 86. We also want to send our thoughts and prayers. They're going through a lot right now. Vanessa Trump has revealed that she has a breast cancer diagnosis. She shared the devastating personal health update on an Instagram post. The post saying, "I want to share a personal health update. I've recently been diagnosed with breast cancer. While this isn't new news anyone expects, I'm working closely with my medical team on a treatment plan. I would like to thank my doctors for performing a procedure earlier this week on me. I'm staying focused and hopeful while surrounded by the love and support of my families, my kids, and those closest to me. Thank you for your kindness and support. It truly means more than I can express. I kindly ask for privacy as I focus on my health and my recovery." So Vanessa Trump is the ex-wife of Don Trump Jr., who is currently and why I say they've got a lot on their plate and kind of a lot of stress. Currently dating Tiger Woods. Ivanka, after seeing the Instagram post, tweeted, "Praying for your continued strength and a swift recovery. Love you, mama." Trump, who was married to Donald Jr. from 2005 to 2018, share 5 children with ex-husband, 19-year-old Kay, 17-year-old Donald, 14-year-old Tristan, 13-year-old Spencer, and Chloe, 11. Vanessa Trump was photographed at Kay's prep school graduation in Florida last week with her ex-husband and family friends. Now, in March, the former of 2025, the former model and New York native announced she was in a relationship with golf superstar Tiger Woods. We know that Tiger Woods is in some hot water with that DUI charge. Okay, now, the ex-Cuba leader, Raul Castro, brother to Fidel, who is 94 years old, has been charged with murder. This we we didn't personally have sources, but we had pieces yesterday saying that this was imminent. But former Cuban President Raul Castro and 5 others were indicted for the murder of 4 U.S. nationals who assisted Cuban refugees in the 1990s, according to Attorney General, or Acting Attorney General to be specific, Todd Blanche. Blanche told a news conference in Miami that a federal grand jury handed up the charges against Castro on April the 23rd for directing the 1996 shoot-down by Cuba's Air Force of 2 planes operated by Brothers to the Rescue, an exile-run humanitarian group. The regime's fighter jets fired air-to-air missiles at 2 unarmed civilian Cessna aircrafts carrying Carlos Costa, Armando Alendra Jr., Mario de la Pina, and Pablo Morales, killing all 4. Brothers to the Rescue was founded in 1991 to help Cuban migrants stranded or lost at sea while attempting to flee the island's communist regime. Castro and his co-defendants have been charged with conspiring to kill U.S. nationals, 2 counts of destruction of aircraft, and 4 counts of murder in the February 24, 1996 shoot-down. Blanche saying at the press conference, for nearly 30 years, the families of 4 murdered Americans have waited for justice. They were unarmed civilians, and they were flying humanitarian missions to rescue and protect people fleeing oppression across the Florida Straits. For the first time in nearly 70 years, senior leadership of the Cuban regime has been charged in this country for acts of violence resulting in the deaths of American citizens. Nations and their leaders cannot be permitted to target Americans, kill them, and not face accountability. Now, Castro and the others all face up to life in prison or the death penalty upon conviction. This isn't a show indictment, Blanche said. There was a warrant issued for his arrest, so we're expecting that he will show up here by his own will or by another way. Now, Representative Carlos Gimenez, Republican from Florida, who escaped Cuba to the U.S. with his family as a young boy, said, "Don't ever make the mistake that somehow Raul Castro is far removed from the politics." The congressman noted that the former Cuban president founded and still leads GAESA, a military-run enterprise that controls at least 40% of the island's economy, which has helped the Castro family maintain control over the populace. I know Marco Rubio spoke out against that yesterday, that they will work for regime change, but they will not work with this Geisa. You cannot deal with this regime, Gimenez said. This needs to be political change. Now, President Trump saying that this is a very big moment for Cuban Americans, who he believes appreciate the indictment. "I think the Cuban population of Miami," said President Trump, and certainly beyond Miami, people that came there that were decimated, whose families were ruined, appreciate what the Attorney General just did today. We have Cuba on our mind, very important. A lot of problems for a lot of years, and I think it was a very big moment for not only Cuban Americans, but people that came from Cuba that want to go back to Cuba, people that want to see their family in Cuba. He stresses this is a very big day, a very important day. They supported me, meaning Cuban Americans, to the nth degree. They supported me at levels that nobody's ever seen before, and so I think it's a very important moment. When asked if escalation with Cuba should be expected, Trump said, "No, there won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be. Look, the place is falling apart. It's a mess, and they're sort of lost control. They've lost control of Cuba." And if you look at it with the rolling blackouts, the blackouts going on for days at a time. He did stress we're going to see, when asked what is next for Cuba, it's a failing nation. You see that it's falling apart. They have no oil. It's a failing nation. So I just can't tell you that. But we're there to help. We're there to help the families and the people. Now leave it because because the President of the United States and the Department of Justice indicted Raul Castro. You actually have, because it's Trump's name and Trump's administration, you have Democrats apparently, I don't know any other way to look at it, but defending the communist regime, defending Fidel Castro. You have Representative Jim Himes, a Democrat from Connecticut. He discussed possible legal action against Raul Castro and said that, quote, legal accountability is critical. And by the way, the Trump administration people may think about that as they undertake illegal wars and illegal actions. For example, the double tap strike on the two individuals, the drug runners, who were clinging to a sinking boat. And it is possible that Raul Castro undertook criminal activities, not a concept that would be entirely foreign to the occupant of the Oval Office himself. So comparing Raul Castro to the President of the United States, this is how unhinged it has become. This is how really scary it has become. You know, obviously we've seen a Democrat Party that has compared President Trump to Hitler and MAGA supporters, or MAGA, to Nazis. In this case, Representative Himes believes that what we have done to end the drug trade, essentially, is akin to blowing up an unarmed peacekeeping, that's not the right term, but an unarmed airplane, obviously, right, with 4 people in it, that were just trying to help those stranded in the water. Let me give you his full quote, just to give you a look quickly. Well, I would say this again, Representative Jim Himes. Well, I would say this: legal accountability is critical. And by the way, the Trump administration people may think about that as they undertake illegal wars and illegal actions. For example, the double tap strike on the two individuals, the drug runners, who were clinging to a sinking boat. Accountability is important for everybody. We care about justice. And so, in fact, if there's a case to be made, if there is a case to be made against Raul Castro, let the facts play out. There may not even be a case to be made. What is not okay is us deciding that we're going to use the military to enforce global laws. That's not what the military is for. And so again, the president has talked for a very long time about going after Cuba. It is possible that Raul Castro undertook criminal activities. It is possible. Not a concept that would be entirely foreign to the occupant of the Oval Office himself. But the use of American military force is not okay, and it's certainly not okay when it is not approved by the United States Congress, as the Constitution demands. Now, one last thing on this, and you can continue to talk about it. Just what I have here in front of me. On the Hill, Senator Rick Scott said that he doesn't think military action in Cuba will be needed to remove the Castro regime. He said, I think one of two things is going to happen. He's going to move to another country and walk away from the atrocities that he committed and the Castro brothers committed and how they've destroyed an island, once a great economy. That's one way that he's going to do it. Or eventually what he's going to do, he's going to end up serving justice. He predicted the Castro regime will go away and we are going to see democracy in Cuba. But when asked about a some potential military action, he said, I don't think we're going to have to do it. I think that what's going to happen is we've seen the Cuban people rise up. They're going to rise up because the regime has nothing left. They have no money. They have no fuel. Now the Castro family has money, but they're not going to spend it to defend. He also said that in light of Cuba's drone purchases, we'll have to ensure better fortification of Guantanamo Bay and Key West, but the Cuban regime can't actually take offensive action that would work. After the discussion turned to Iran, Scott said that he thinks President Trump is going to have to use military action with the Iranian regime, but not the Cuban regime. So there we are on that. Keep your waves, keep your comments coming in. We got a lot to cover this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
You think swimming pools, think Hesselson's. Hesselson's offers expert advice, professional service, and a complete line of chemicals and accessories. Replacement liners, motors and pumps, automatic vacuums, skimmers, ladders, steps, and more. Hesselson's has it all. Do you have a chemical question? Come in for Hesselson's free computerized water analysis and the widest selection of chlorine and specialty chemicals. With Hesselson's help, you can clean up any pool problem and swim in sparkling clean water. Let Hesselson's show you how easy it can be to take care of your swimming pool. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
At Simmons Rockwell Nissan, lease a brand new 2026 Nissan Sentra SV front-wheel drive sedan for only $309 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads and Ornell.
Get ready. Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration. Brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We get the chance to dry out a bit today as we gradually clear, seeing some sun eventually, a high of 64, a little on the cool side. Temperatures falling near 40 overnight, continuing to be a bit below average. By Friday, topping off with some low 70s, and we'll see an approaching system bring a few showers. Temperatures get knocked back down a peg as we have showers on Saturday, then we'll rise back toward 80 by Tuesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A former Justice Department prosecutor was charged yesterday with allegedly emailing confidential records tied to former special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into President Trump. Carmen Mercedes Lineberger, 62 years old, of Port St. Lucie, right, Florida, faces 4 criminal charges stemming from her handling of Smith's final report. 1 felony count of obstruction of justice, 1 felony count of concealing government records, and 2 misdemeanor counts of theft of government property valued at less than $1,000. According to the indictment filed in the Southern District of Florida, Lineberger allegedly altered electronic file names of government records to conceal unauthorized transmissions of the documents to her personal email account. All right, some updates from stories we brought to you in the past. A woman allegedly tied to Minnesota's massive Feeding Our Future scandal has been charged in a daycare fraud scheme after being featured in that viral video by Nick Shirley. She is accused of pocketing millions of dollars meant for children's meals. Faima Eghe Muhammad was charged Wednesday with wire fraud and conspiracy to defraud the United States, according to court documents. Earlier this year, Muhammad was indicted for her alleged role in the initial $250 million Feeding Our Future scheme. Prosecutors allege she enrolled Future Leaders Early Learning, a Minneapolis daycare where she served as CEO, into the federal child nutrition program, falsely claiming to serve thousands of meals at her daycare center. In addition to her involvement in the nutrition program fraud, Muhammad was federally charged Wednesday with a secondary scheme to defraud the Child Care Assistance Program, which provides daycare assistance to low-income families. They're figuring the total approximately $4.6 million. Now, Trump's task force on this, and J.D. Vance has been the lead, is tackling $250 billion in government fraud, and according to Fox News, it's just getting started. For years, the American government failed to protect its citizens from fraudsters and instead let people, often foreign-born immigrants, from the developing world take advantage of this nation's generous spirit and bleed its taxpayers dry. Thanks to President Trump and J.D. Vance, the American people are learning in real time that we don't have to accept this. Like all anti-civilization forces, putting up with fraudsters fleecing the American taxpayer is a choice. We choose, quote, no more, and the president's new anti-fraud task force is our instrument of justice. Vance, vice chair of the Anti-Fraud Task Force, and Federal Trade Commission Chairman Andrew Ferguson are leading an unprecedented whole-of-government effort in the war against fraud. Unlike the Biden administration, Vance has warned that no amount of fraud is too small to prosecute, saying, quote, we did not prosecute fraud in this country if it's under $1.5 million per year. How absurd and insulting is that? The average lifetime tax contribution of one U.S. citizen is approximately $500,000. Before the task force, the government would simply turn a blind eye to fraud so large it would wipe out the lifetime tax contributions of 3 Americans. This is the fundamental difference between the Trump administration and those that preceded it. If you allow chaos, disorder, and criminality, however small, the entire system will collapse. But if you refuse to cede any ground to the criminals, you can take back the whole field of battle. And as Trump has said, we are in a war on fraud. Finally, it's a war we are winning. Americans deserve better than to be ripped off and deprived of programs designed to help Americans in need. Perhaps this is the most crucial insight Vance brings to the war. The very program that helped him and his family at their greatest time of need are at risk of becoming insolvent if something urgent isn't done, and done now. Now they go through some of the ways to combat this, but Americans are used to vice presidents getting pet projects put in their policy portfolio, only to see them wither and die on the vine. Does anyone remember Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris as border czar? But instead of offering symbolic gestures and making grand speeches with zero follow-through, Vance and Ferguson are doing the opposite. They speak plainly with unapologetic moral clarity, but they carry a very big and very serious stick. Putting up with fraud is a choice, and finally, it feels like the American people's voices are being heard in Washington. We choose no more fraud. Vice President Vance, thank you for choosing America. Now this ties in because there's been questions about Ilhan Omar, and we know that J.D. Vance said just yesterday or 2 days ago that they were looking into Ilhan Omar for some fraud scenarios, that the beginning of an investigation. Well, Nancy Mason, the street sweeper, is getting ready for Glass Fest. So we've got a little bit of noise coming out there. But Representative Nancy Mace unveiled legislation yesterday aiming to ban foreign-born U.S. citizens from serving in Congress and other high levels of the federal government. The South Carolina Congresswoman singled out Representative Ilhan Omar, Sri Thander, and Pramil Jayapal in announcing her joint resolution to add an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would prohibit naturalized U.S. citizens from becoming federal judges, holding Senate-confirmed positions, or serving in the House or Senate. Quote, all born in foreign countries, none were citizens by birth, all sitting in the United States Congress, all making clear every single day their loyalty is not to America, Mace said of the trio. Mace noted the proposed amendment would impose the very same standard the president and vice president are already required to meet. The people writing America's laws, confirming America's judges, and representing America on the world stage should have one loyalty: America, not any other country. For too long, we have allowed foreign-born members to hold seats in this government while making clear they are America last, not America first. We see it every day. This constitutional amendment will put an end to it. 26 House members, including 19 Democrats and 7 Republicans, were born outside of the United States. In the upper chamber, 6 senators, 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans, were born outside the United States. Mace's resolution faces, we should say, very long odds of becoming law, as it must pass both chambers of Congress by a 2/3 vote and be ratified by 3/4 of state legislatures. Now, we're not going to go through each of these individuals that she mentioned. We've talked about their kind of sordid comments in the past. But there you are, a decision by Nancy Mace to move forward. And as I said, it's a long shot, but I wanted to bring it to you. Nancy Mace unveils legislation to ban naturalized citizens from serving in Congress. All right, we got a couple updates to bring to you when we return, so stay with us. We're just getting warmed up here on Frankly Speaking, but it's going fast. So keep your waves, keep your comments coming in. A couple quick announcements. Today, United States Air Force Heritage of America Band will be joining us, 2 members in the 7 o'clock hour. And then on tomorrow's program, we're going to be talking with Steuben County Legislative Chair Kelly Fitzpatrick, friend of Frankly Speaking. We look forward to talking with her. I've got a star-studded lineup just like we have this week. We have a star-studded lineup next week as well. Now, Monday, of course, will be off for Memorial Day, but we'll be hitting the ground running on Tuesday and Wednesday, and there on out. I've got to double-check my schedule, but we got a busy week next week. And if you missed any of our interviews this week, you can find it on our YouTube page or on WYDCTV.com. We talked about Miss Colonial Days on Monday. We talked with author Tony Pucci on Tuesday. Yesterday, we talked with the Rotary, so you can find those all online. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I'm Grace.
I'm Ida, and I lived in California.
Timmy was just a puppy when I moved in. He's a emotional support animal.
I had Missy, who is 15 years old and blind.
Likes the people, he likes to greet all the people. All the employees are happy to see him.
I feel that my pets are very welcome here. I feel very welcome here. I think it's great.
At Carpenters, Phillips and Flint, we want people to know that we're a welcoming family.
We not only serve our community, but we live in our community. Our kids go to school here. It's not uncommon to see one of us at a local business or for a walk at a sporting event.
The community here and everything it has to offer. I can't think of a better place to raise my children.
We are a part of this community and we're invested in this community.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com to learn more about our family-owned funeral homes.
Glass Fest the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Friday, May 22nd, it's award-winning country music powerhouse Drake White with soulful country entertainer John King opening. Friday, May 22nd in Riverfront Centennial Park in Corning. Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Spring and at the Declaration of Deals this May at Chilson Wilcox. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. And it comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save over $6,000 on a new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Just announced, go topless in a 2026 Jeep Wrangler. And as always, get the highest trade-in values, period. These deals won't last. Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way.
Watching Big Fox, WYDC.
Frankly speaking, roof cam, you can even see where the sweeper cleaned up. That's how nice our view is of historic Market Street, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is an update from a story I brought to you yesterday, and it's from the Post editorial board, and they kind of echo what I said, but I wanted to reiterate this. According to the Post, they said, when it comes to moronic political stunts, the NAACP's call for a black boycott of athletic programs at Southern universities is hard to beat. After all, the group's out-of-bounds campaign, backed by the Congressional Black Caucus, looks primed to harm the very people it claims to champion, black teen athletes. And this is what I mentioned yesterday. What had happened, and Hakeem Jeffries has signed on to it as well. If a state redistrict that they didn't like, the gerrymandering as they put it, if a state did that, they're asking black athletes to not play for those universities. Now, again, I think that's such a huge disservice, kind of what the New York Post is saying, when you talk about, can we put maybe politics aside when it comes to an athlete in their prime choosing a university to get an education, great opportunities for athletic achievement, maybe not think about redistricting, maybe not include that in the mix, but I'm going to continue. The campaign asked these teens, as well as families, fans, alumni, and others, to stay away from public universities in southern states that are purportedly weakening black voting rights. Don't fund them, attend them, take part in their athletic programs, etc. Now, again, as I mentioned, you have, and this is not a secret, we know that universities have long indoctrinated students to a left-wing ideology. So you're hurting, essentially, your own quote-unquote cause when it comes to liberal politics. So they're saying they're not doing enough. I don't know what enough is. That's the problem when you need like complete adherence to the left-wing ideology. I don't know what doing enough would look like by these universities. I guess indoctrinating the next generation of young people, not enough. But the Post asks why. The state's redistricting plan, after the Supreme Court limited the creation of racially gerrymandered districts, the Black Caucus, NAACP, and other allies pretended the redistricting hurts minority voting rights. But the real gripe is that it'll mean fewer Democrats in the House. Set aside the debate over using racism to fight racism. What makes the campaign dumber than dumb is that the schools in the targeted states, Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, South Carolina, Texas, and Georgia, have nothing to do with the Supreme Court case or the redistricting. Nor do the teen athletes being told to pass on the opportunities those schools offer. They had nothing to do with it. This is the haves, the insiders who run the NAACP and the successful politicians in the CBC telling the have-nots high school athletes, to sacrifice their futures simply to make sure or make some kind of statement, not even a clear one, for the cause that the haves milk for their own living. I think it's kind of a wonky sentence or kind of a confusing, but I think it's an important one. This is the haves, the NAACP, CBC, telling the have-nots, the high school athletes, to sacrifice their future simply to make some kind of statement, not even sure what that statement is, not even sure what they're trying to do, for the cause that, again, the haves milk for their own living. The politicians behind the redistricting will pay no price, only these black athletes. This is even more idiotic than Major League Baseball's 2021 rush to pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta over Georgia's voting rights law. The law went ahead, and minority turnout soared, and the MLB ultimately returned the game to Atlanta. The only ones to suffer, businesses, workers, and residents in the city, in these cities, which is nearly half black and mostly didn't support the law in the first place. Set aside the less pathetic fury when the rules of democracy don't favor Democrats. Trying to con black teen athletes into being political pawns is as idiotic as it is despicable. And I thought the New York Post kind of encapsulated what we had said yesterday, and I wanted to bring that to you as a kind of an update. Oh, did you see? I think this is a little bit overhyped. I know we have some people in the audience that have been following the Spencer Pratt run for LA mayor. Spencer Pratt, a former reality star, kind of the heel on that reality show, the more I'm understanding, kind of the villain. But he's been doing really a great job, and especially when it comes to using social media. Well, Donald Trump, of course, leave it to Deadline, the publication Deadline, to say, is it a poisoned chalice? Well, Donald Trump backs Spencer Pratt for LA mayor, saying, I heard he's a big MAGA person. He didn't really endorse him. He just said, I'd like to see him do well. He's a character. I assume he probably supports me. I heard he's a big MAGA person. He's doing well. I'm telling you, it's going to be an interesting race. If you haven't followed that, I couldn't even tell you. You almost have to go to Pratt's own social media, because otherwise they're spinning this. They're scared. We had that piece yesterday from Deadline that said he went on a tangent, a meltdown, and I read it, and it seemed very reasonable that, yeah, he doesn't live in that trailer on the toxic waste of his burnt house, where his house burnt down, because of the incompetence of the current mayor or his other opponent. It's been very fascinating. Well, Spencer Pratt actually revealed why he joined the Republican Party in an interview on CNN. He said, you want to break some news here? The former reality star said years of backlash during his TV fame led to serious concerns about protecting himself and his family. He said, when I was a hated reality star, I got so many death threats. I had so much security and police. And what did they tell me to do? Get a gun. Pratt argued LA is dangerous, and if you're hated, adding that both he and his wife eventually purchased firearms. The mayoral hopeful said the couple later sought concealed carry permits and claimed Republicans supported the concealed carry rights, influencing his political alignment. Quote, the only people that supported a CCW, a carry concealed weapons permit, was a Republican, Pratt said. Pratt is a registered Republican, but running for LA mayor as an independent. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. Okay. He also noted that he followed legal procedures and completed firearms training before obtaining his permit. During the interview with Michelson, Pratt also compared himself to Barack Obama when asked which modern politician he aligns most with. Interesting. Anyway, that's going to be a fun, interesting race to watch. All right, as I said, when we return, man, I have so much. I see protesters may finally be held to account. 7 anti-Israel protesters are on trial in San Francisco this week, accused of bringing one of the nation's most iconic bridges to a grinding halt, the Golden Gate Bridge. If they are convicted, they could spend up to 15 years in prison. You know, these protesters don't think there's any consequences for their actions because there hasn't been, especially under the Biden administration, but under some of these left-wing mayors and DAs and things like that. This will be interesting also to see how this plays out. The case centers on an April 15, 2024 quote-unquote demonstration in which all southbound traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge was brought to a standstill for more than 4 hours, triggering major disruption across San Francisco's main entry point. And it was an anti-Israel, pro-Hamas type protest. Again, well, Assistant District Attorney Angela Rose said this case is simple. The footage captured protesters blocking the roadway. Rose said the actions were unmistakable. The evidence that you see is exactly what the defendants did. There is no question that they obstructed a thoroughfare. While you may agree with their cause, and it may be an important one, it does not excuse breaking the law. We'll see where that goes. But again, I'll never understand why disrupting people's lives. You think that while you're doing that, you think that they're going to join your cause. Hey, I just made you late for work. Or hey, you want to get home after a long day's work and get dinner ready and start it. Sorry, we're going to block this bridge. Or hey, you have a medical emergency and you're going to the doctors, or you have an appointment, or you have a job interview, et cetera, et cetera. You know how we stopped all that and brought it to a grinding halt, and how it disrupted your whole day, perhaps potentially your whole life? You want to join our cause now? You stand with us? All right, we got to take a break. Al Gore updates. Why not? When we return, stay with us.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We get the chance to dry out a bit today as we gradually clear, seeing some sun eventually, a high of 64, a little on the cool side. Temperatures falling near 40 overnight, continuing to be a bit below average. By Friday, topping off with some low 70s, and we'll see an approaching system bring a few showers. Temperatures get knocked back down a peg as we have showers on Saturday. Then we'll rise back toward 80 by Tuesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So this is for our good friend, Climate Fact Friday Bob. Kyle Smith writes, in his 1992 book, Earth in the Balance, Al Gore wrote, with what would become his customary hyperbole, quote, the evidence of an ecological crystal knot is as clear as the sound of the glass shattering in Berlin. The then senator claimed that according to some predictions, no specifics were offered, by the way, in the next few decades, up to 60% of the present population of Florida may have to be relocated. That was back in 1992, folks. It's been a few decades. How is Mr. Gore's prophecy working out? Did he even get the direction right? Florida's population in 1992 was around 13 million. Mr. Gore's prediction would have reduced that figure below 6 million. Today, the state's population has nearly doubled instead of more than halved. More than 23 million souls now call Florida home. So in 1992, 13 million. So he was saying about 6.5 million should be there today. Instead, 23 million souls now call Florida home. Yet there is a greater chance that all of them will be eaten by gators by next Friday than there is of Al Gore's issuing an oops. Hey, he was merely saying, quote, according to some predictions, right? Maybe he was quoting a soothsayer he met in Reno. Maybe he did some research at the local facility for the criminally insane. As Mr. Gore's Oscar-winning sci-fi classic, An Inconvenient Truth observes, as it observes its 20th anniversary, Wow, 20th anniversary coming up on May the 24th. It would be far too easy to dub him the Chicken Little of climate change. The fowl of legend, unlike Mr. Gore, didn't devise the means to profit spectacularly from his doomsday squawking. Mr. Gore has successfully convinced the political world to design subsidies, regulations, and mandates that fattened his bank account by immense amounts. Gore was famously dubbed potentially the world's first carbon billionaire in a New York Times article back in 2009, but all the way back in 2009. Many years of wealth accumulation ago. We don't know what he's worth now. Estimates suggest it's in the hundreds of millions. He was worth less than $2 million when he left the vice presidency in 2001 and has breezily dismissed charges that there is an inherent conflict of interest in being both the visionary saint of climate change and a rent-seeking businessman who turns doomcasting into profit. In 2026, even the New York Times has started publishing pieces advising its progressive readership to calm its climate change-related fears, gently pointing out that despite all the hype, the issue still doesn't grab actual voters much. Quote, climate politics is in undeniable withdrawal, notes the paper's David Wallace Wells. That must be hurtful to Mr. Gore, who foresaw an earth in the balance, a kind of global civil war between green resistance fighters and the silent partners of destruction. Thought leaders such as Breakthrough Institute co-founder Ted Nordis and President Obama's Undersecretary for Science in the Energy Department, physicist Stephen Koonin, have said they've changed their minds about the severity of the threat. Today's leading thinkers are now approaching climate change as a long-term challenge to manage rather than a dire, immediate emergency, an ecological crisis, as Gore dubs the situation on the first page of his 1992 book. He set the template for institutions to shout climate change. Well, originally it was global warming, right? But to shout climate change at every opportunity as though incantation will create reality. Let's review some of Gore's predictions, errors, and fabrication in An Inconvenient Truth and elsewhere. Inconvenient Truth, celebrating 20 years. In the movie, Gore said that within 15 years, Glacier National Park would become the park formerly known as Glacier. No, the glaciers are still very much there. He also claimed within the decade there will be no more snow of Kilimanjaro. The snow on Africa's highest mountain is still there. Gore was forced to remove a slide that he said proved global warming is creating weather-related disasters that are completely unprecedented after climate scientist Roger Pilk pointed out the conceptual error behind it. Data shows that hurricanes, which were the centerpieces of Gore's scare marketing, don't exhibit a trend toward increasing frequency or severity over the half-century. The Goracle, I like that. The Goracle suggested we have been ignoring warnings that hurricanes were getting stronger due to climate change. Compare that threat to the rise of the Nazis in the 1930s and added in 2013 that hurricane trackers have been forced to dream up a new category, Cat 6. This was all false. In 2009, he claimed in a speech to the Copenhagen Climate Summit, some of the models suggest to climatologist Dr. Malskowitz that there is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during the summer months could be completely ice-free within 5 to 7 years. That is by 2016. Think of that. By 2016. Mr. Moskowski responded that he didn't say that. Quote, it's unclear to me how this figure was arrived at, he noted at the time. In 2026, the polar ice caps remain even in the summer. As for polar bears, which Gore suggested were in danger because they had to swim up to 60 miles to find ice to stand on, their greatest enemy wasn't climate change, but in this case, they said hunting, which was banned in 1973. The numbers have roughly tripled since the late 1960s. Gore's fundamental unseriousness is evident in a head-spinning, misleading scene in his 2017 follow-up, An Inconvenient Sequel, Truth to Power. In that film, he had the astonishing claim, or he claimed, vindication for his 2006 suggestion that downtown Manhattan would soon be inundated by displaying the supposed proof, images from Superstorm Sandy in 2012. This is almost comical. The first film suggested Lower Manhattan would be inundated permanently because of melting polar ice, not temporarily because of a storm. Gore is perhaps long past the point of caring about his public reputation. When you've pocketed hundreds of millions of dollars by selling distortion and hysteria, you might as well chuckle at your success instead of dwelling on your failures. But as the tone on climate change adjusts to reality, he risks joining Thomas Malthus and Paul Ehrlich to go down in intellectual history as one of the three stooges of man-caused global disaster. There was our, I know it's not Friday, but I thought it was appropriate as we near the 20th anniversary of An Inconvenient Truth. Unbelievable. All right, we got a couple things about Thomas Massey. We do have some New York State updates. We got to take a break. Man, we're moving fast. Stay with us.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
To the me I used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
Glass Back the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Saturday, May 23rd is Tracy's A Taylor Experience.
Welcome to our tribute to the Eras Tour.
Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
I'll write your name. Today's students are tomorrow's great thinkers and innovators.
What can this ball teach us about the way things move?
But right now, millions of kids go to schools that don't have the supplies they need just because of where they live. Donors Choose is a nonprofit that lets you support students and teachers in your community and beyond. You could supply a classroom like this one with a project. But what you're really giving is the moment that sparks a brighter tomorrow. Learn more at Donors Choose.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Ken writes in, Frank, did you see that the UN has modified their doomsday climate change predictions? I assume that these changes confirm that we have been hosed into spending billions on projects that actually line the pockets of the alarmists. Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit, the other day. I think Trump weighed in on it and others. So yes, it has. I mean, Al Gore got rich. So many people got rich. And unfortunately, so many young people that have now grown into their 30s, terrified that the world was coming to an end, that polar bears would be extinct, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people wasted a lot of good money. And a lot of people lined their pockets. Okay. Where do we want to go from here? Jonathan Turley had an interesting piece because I want to talk about Thomas Massey again because there's a couple opinion pieces on this, but I may save that till the 7 o'clock hour. But remember last week, was it, or earlier this week, where we quoted Kamala Harris, who said there was no bad ideas in, I guess, combating Trump and this threat to democracy. Well, Jonathan Turley, and I respect him very much, he's an opinion contributor in numerous places. It was Thursday of last week where Harris posted a live stream on the, quote, Win with Black Women podcast to call for a no bad idea brainstorm for the Democrat Party. She used that pretense to throw out there the idea that Democrats should make radical constitutional and political changes as soon as they retake power. And we've had story after story in regards to this where they're talking about stacking the Supreme Court if they get power. They're talking about ending the filibuster. And Kamala Harris had quite a laundry list, such as packing the Supreme Court, admitting Puerto Rico and D.C. as states, and killing the Electoral College if they take over, if they take power. Keep this in mind. All of these items have been previously raised by liberal professors and pundits as a way to circumvent small d democratic processes in order to guarantee power for the big D Democrats for years to come. It was a telling rationalization. The Democratic Party has become a party of moral and political relativism, embodied in the popular by any means necessary mantra used by many on the left today. But there are bad ideas, just as there are bad people who want to win at any cost. For some, Harris herself showed the existence of truly bad ideas by accepting the position as Biden's border czar, as roughly 10 million people poured into the country. Another bad idea was her selection of Tim Walz as a running mate before his series of rake steps. I like that, rake steps, like the old cartoons when you step on the rake. Indeed, her sudden surprise nomination was a bad idea, one that cost $1.5 billion in just 15 weeks and led to one of her party's most crushing losses in decades. The worst idea, however, is to celebrate our 250th anniversary by destroying the very institutions and values that created the most successful and stable democracy in history. And we don't have to get through all the specifics on that, on this that Jonathan Turley brings up. But he said now leading Democrats such as Hakeem Jeffries have declared the Supreme Court illegitimate and called for a massive overhaul of both state and federal courts to make them submit to Democrats' demands. This was Jeffries' reaction to the Virginia Supreme Court's rejection of Democrats' efforts to wipe out Republican representation in Virginia. He is not the only one adding bad ideas to Harris's wish list. Various politicians and pundits called for the sacking and packing of the Virginia Supreme Court by lowering the mandatory age for retirement to 54 that would simply force out all the current justices and replace them with rubber stamp liberal appointees. If this sack and pack scheme is not enough, Hillary Clinton's former campaign lawyer, Mark Ellis, reminded citizens that under the state constitution, they could scrap the entire Virginia government over the refusal to let Democrats gerrymander their state. Keep in mind, if you don't remember Ellis, he was infamous for his role in the secret funding of the Steele dossier. But it did not matter that even a justice appointed by former Democrat Governor Mark Warner found the move unconstitutional, or that Democrat figures like Governor Abigail Spanberger believed that it could be overturned. This was only their latest effort to throw out some bad ideas, as Kamala Harris had suggested, to an increasingly radical movement on the left. When Turley and others flagged Ellis's posting as alarming, he criticized for taking him to task for merely quoting the state constitution. It was typical of the "who me" response of the establishment figures who confronted for pandering to the most radical political elements in the Democrat Party. And now he continues, and I know we don't have time, I'm running late, but the framers rejected more direct democratic system to blunt the impulses and passions that destroyed other systems. They wanted to avoid democracy becoming what Benjamin Rush called a mobocracy. The American Constitution was a rejection of the bad ideas that politicians, called demagogues in ancient Greece, have historically used to marshal the power of the mob. They did not want an expanded playbook designed to secure and retain power for one party. We were the first true Enlightenment revolution based on the protections of rights derived not from the government but from God himself. Now that was a good idea. All right, there you go. I like that, Jonathan Turley. In the next hour, we're going to talk a little bit about Thomas Massey. We got a couple things coming up running late. Stay with us. Get your last second comments in for hour number 1.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
How about investing in our children and their future? How about investing in Start Early and giving the next generation and generations to come the same chance we want for our own children? Invest in Start Early and become a champion for our youngest learners. Then together, we actually can change the future.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We get the chance to dry out a bit today as we gradually clear, seeing some sun eventually, a high of 64, a little on the cool side. Temperatures falling near 40 overnight, continuing to be a bit below average. By Friday, topping off with some low 70s, and we'll see an approaching system bring a few showers. Temperatures get knocked back down a peg as we have showers on Saturday. Then we'll rise back toward 80 by Tuesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. It's Hanging Chad Remembrance Day. Oh my gosh, remember? I wish I had the photo, that famous photo of the Hanging Chads. As crazy as the left is now, can you imagine how much further along the green energy nonsense would be? That was a close one. Very good point. Imagine what this world would look like if Al Gore, and I remember at the time, and not even more recently, there was so much fear-mongering where people, about global warming, people would say it's the worst thing that we ever did not electing Al Gore. The planet is doomed because we didn't elect Al Gore. Look at every prediction that he got wrong. The only thing that he got right was he lined his pockets, that he became rich off of the scare tactics and sadly off of you and me, the taxpayer. So yes, Hanging Chad Remembrance Day. I like that. Now, we have so much to get to, and I don't really have a lot of time, so I don't want to jump ahead to a very heavy topic as we end hour number one. But we do have some really interesting New York State updates. We're going to give you a quote from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano because the budget, even though I believe is the 14th extender was passed, the budget process has begun. We're one of nine remaining one of nine bills were actually voted on. So the first budget bill, the passage of the first budget bill. This is not the budget. I want to clarify that. This is one of nine. We're going to hear what the Assemblyman had to say about that. I don't know if you want to talk about Jeff Bezos. Let me end on this because I don't really want to dive too much into this. But there's a socialist Seattle mayor, Katie Wilson. She joined in the Starbucks protest where they wanted to unionize Starbucks employees, and she essentially she did. She called for a boycott of Starbucks. Now you say, why is this an issue? That's Seattle. Starbucks is kind of synonymous with Seattle. And they started talking about pulling out of Seattle, and they've actually already started to expand its footprint in Tennessee. Realizing that it's all fun when you're getting cheers from a fellow socialist, but when it can really help destroy an already destroyed city, Seattle, she realized maybe this was a mistake. The reason I bring it up is you got to hear her quote. Because originally in November, she said, I'm not buying Starbucks and you should not either. So you got a boycott of Starbucks in Seattle by the mayor. Now she seems to be walking back her statement. I thought this was such a... Well, let me read it and I'll let you judge. Quote, those comments were not productive in the sense... Okay, good. How were they not productive? Clarify it. Those comments were not productive in the sense that they caused more harm than good. Well, I guess I would say not productive. What? Those comments were not productive in the sense that, I don't get that throwaway line, in the sense that they caused more harm than good. You can't just say, hey, those comments caused more harm than good. Listen, they weren't productive in the sense that they cause more harm than good. I know Limbaugh used to talk about this, but there's a certain kind of cadence that people have when they believe that they're more intelligent than they are, or that they're kind of trying to act like some type of college elite professor type thing. And I guess that's how you would say it. Those comments were not productive. Well, how? Well, in the sense that they cause more harm than good. Well, it's just like Mom Donahue. We can talk about Jeff Bezos attacked him or criticized him yesterday, trying to drive out these billionaires. We'll see where it leaves the city, but we got to go. I know you're looking at the clock too. We're running late. Stay with us.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Glass Fest the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Friday, May 22nd, it's award-winning country music powerhouse Drake White with soulful country entertainer John King opening. Friday, May 22nd in Riverfront Centennial Park in Corning. Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Summer's here. You can celebrate anything, like buying your first car. Yes! Cute. Finishing a big project. Or even your dog's birthday.
He's eating the cup. Is that okay? It's his daily fiber.
Right now, you can lease a versatile all-wheel drive 2026 RAV4 with 0 down and first month's payment of $399 due at signing.
Your summer starts here.
Toyota, let's go places.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, as always. And coming up in this hour, we're going to hear from the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band, which will be playing absolutely free at the Clemens Center this Sunday. Get you, or for the Memorial Day weekend, but it's this Sunday. And get that patriotic feeling that, yeah, it's going to be a good one. Also, since we're talking about it, tomorrow we're going to be talking with Kelly Fitzpatrick, chairwoman of the Steuben County Legislature. So if you have any questions for her, please get them to me ahead of time. Okay, I said I'd talk about this. I don't want to spend too much of this hour on Thomas Massie, but there's a couple of different takes on this, and we're going to show some anti-Massie, some pro-Massie, I guess. But Sean Davis said, why did Thomas Massie lose? Massie went from a principled libertarian during COVID to GOP leadership lapdog under Kevin McCarthy to anti-Trump Epstein obsessive in 2025. After tweeting about the issue in a whopping 3 times in the decade prior. The nail in the coffin for him was voting against the One Big Beautiful Bill in 2025 because, according to Massie, it did too much to secure the border. And that's when you could tell he became the contrarian. Because there's no way to justify that. There's no way to make the argument against voting for the One Big Beautiful Bill. So his argument was essentially it did too much to secure the border. And you start to see with the comments that he made and the interviews he got in the media, he started to love it. In a moment, we're going to hear about someone that has that same syndrome. You could call it the McCain syndrome, maybe the Romney syndrome, whatever you want to call it. But where Republicans realize, oh, wow, you know this media that hates me? If I badmouth fellow Republicans, I get a lot of attention. My fundraising numbers go up. Oh, yeah, I ultimately lose, but my fundraising money goes up. And I actually get attention from the people that used to hate me, the cool kids in the room, in the media, which they're not the cool kids. I'm just in their mindset. But we're going to hear from somebody else and what they had to say about Massie, who went through the same thing, except for she left her constituents high and dry. She abandoned her constituents. At least Massie stuck to it till he lost drastically by 10 percentage points. But we'll continue. Trump trashed Massie in 2020, calling him a disaster for America and Kentucky and saying he should be thrown out of the GOP entirely. But Massie easily swatted that away and won 81-19. So you can't say he only lost because of Trump. He went toe-to-toe with Trump on COVID in 2020 and won overwhelmingly. Massie lost because he went from being perceived as a quirky but lovable nerd who seemed to genuinely believe everything he said, to looking like a clout-chasing influencer who cared more about getting TV time with Democrats on an issue he clearly never cared about until 5 minutes ago than he did about representing his voters. Yes, he sold out. He loved the attention. It's why he was eating it all up during his concession speech when the crowd started chanting 2028 in reference to he should run for president. And we'll talk about that later. He loves that attention. And I hate to say this. I'm not trying to be insulting, but a lot of times these people, they go this direction, they want to be liked by the media so much, so they turn on their core beliefs. I've got to assume are people that probably weren't that popular growing up, maybe didn't have a lot of friends, maybe were, as they said here, a lovable nerd, quirky, and then all of a sudden they think that the media is the cool kids, and they're not. But they think they're the cool kids and they want to be liked by them so much. There's a level of sadness to it, but I'll continue. We'll never know what caused the apparent personality change with Massie. Maybe it was the death of his wife. Maybe it was the McCarthy race followed by McCarthy's ouster. Or maybe it was a desire for notoriety or media acclaim and a lucrative podcasting career outside of Congress. But the drastic change was undeniable, as was the seeming lack of interest in much of anything happening in Kentucky. Blame Trump, blame Israel, blame Epstein, blame the tragic death of his spouse. I don't care, but you cannot just wave away 2020 Massey going face-to-face with the Trump machine and winning in a row only to get smoked 6 years later. Massey's voters didn't really change all that much, but he did, and they noticed. And I thought that was a great takeaway. They noticed. It was the voters. David Marcus, oh, well, let me tell you, because this is about Bill Cassidy and some others as well. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, as I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, listen to this. She erupts after Massey loses Kentucky's primary. She went to Twitter. Now, again, she sold out her constituents. She left them high and dry. She didn't care about them. She just cared to retire right at that perfect time where she would still get her full pension. She went to Twitter and said, I am proud and thankful to have served in the U.S. House of Representatives with my friend Thomas Massey, a giant among weak, pathetic men. Releasing the Epstein files was our demise. No, you quit. Hold on. Don't say our. He actually ran and lost the race. You just quit your constituents. But it was worth every single bit because now everyone knows the truth. Where's the rest of it? You are ruled by the Epstein class that cares nothing about you, and your elected leaders are bought and controlled by a foreign lobby. Now, here we go. This is the reason I bring up what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Tonight, the future of the Republican Party was destroyed. The real America First movement will rise, led by the younger generations who hate the old guard with an unquenchable passion. Let us pray that we have a country left by the time these creatures are gone. Boy, her and Massey are two peas in a pod, aren't they? Love the attention, love the admiration from people that hate them to their core, that never want to see them succeed in life. Now we know that she kind of has received the same criticism that Massey has, that she is a sellout. She wants to make the money from being on interviews. She loves being on The View. Massey loving the attention as well. Well, David Marcus, and remember, I want to reiterate this point because I know I made a lot yesterday, but I think it's important to know. Bill Cassidy, Thomas Massey, they lost because Trump endorsed their opponent. But again, we were lectured for months, almost daily. I brought you an article where we learned that MAGA had turned on President Trump. MAGA hates Trump now. Now they're writing the pieces that Trump's grip on the Republican Party. But David Marcus writes, over the past several days, two Republican thorns in President Trump's side, in the form of Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana and Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky, have been ousted in their primaries by GOP voters and by very healthy margins. But this is about much more than Trump. All over the country, the animating issue for most Republican voters I talk to is rather simple. They say, quote, we gave the party the House, the Senate, and the White House, so why can't popular legislation like the Save America Act pass? Bing, bing, bing. That's what we've talked about. Look how little has been accomplished when Republicans were given the House and the Senate. In other words, what is the point of electing Republicans if they won't do anything? The carnage among incumbents thus far is severe and historic. It wasn't just Cassidy getting trounced. His GOP Senate colleague, John Cornyn of Texas, also appeared on the verge of defeat, even before Trump endorsed his opponent, Ken Paxton, on Tuesday. And longtime anti-Trumper Mitch McConnell has retired from politics, likely leaving his seat to a Trump-endorsed candidate. Yes, his supposed Mitch McConnell's protege lost. To put this in perspective, since 1950, the only time a party has lost more than one sitting senator to a primary challenger was the Democrats in 1980, with 3. And boy, was that a bad year for them. In Massey's case, he went from regularly winning primaries by 50-plus points to a humiliating 10-point loss. It turns out Kentucky voters cared more about passing laws than they did about anti-Israel conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, in Texas, the often cranky and cantankerous Representative Dan Crenshaw was given his electoral pink slip after years as a popular and big-name figure. And this was without Trump endorsing in his race. In Indiana, a slate of longtime state representatives lost their GOP primary battles for failing to aggressively redistrict their state to Republican advantages. Even incumbents who have the all-important endorsement of Trump are getting sobering messages from voters. In West Virginia last week, Senator Shelley Moore Capito won her non-competitive primary against a no-name challenger with 66% of the vote. That may sound good, but in 2020, as an incumbent, she garnered a whopping 83%. She dropped 20 points, notwithstanding her nonstop ads about her Trump endorsement. There is a political earthquake going on with GOP voters, but the party's leadership, especially in the Senate, may as well be in a hot air balloon, admiring the view, not feeling the trembles turn to torrents. Yeah, again, that's why, and we've talked about it, I hope you're not one of those people, but there's so much apathy. Republicans are saying, why go out and put the effort into these candidates if they're not going to do what they promised to do? It's worth noting that the incumbents who are going down are from all over the spectrum of conservative politics. Sure, Cornyn and Cassidy can be called rhinos, but Massey can't, and it shows voter frustration is not ideological, it's practical. GOP voters do not want to hear about their elected officials' principles or purity. They want to know why nothing is getting done besides the odd reconciliation bill. Take Cornyn. When his primary went to a runoff against Paxton, Trump was clear as day that he would endorse Cornyn if the Senate nuked the filibuster and fumbled. Is it any wonder that Republican voters are taking their anger to the primary voting booth? With GOP control of Congress, the White House, and a conservative Supreme Court, when will there ever be better conditions to achieve the voters' priorities? How many elections do Republicans need to win before they can actually govern? And that's such a great point. You don't think Democrats would have taken full advantage of this situation? The problem with the conventional wisdom that this CVS receipt of GOP primary losses is all down to Trump's power is that it erases the voice of the voter. Trump is listening to that voice, not commanding it. There are many in the Republican establishment who have been waiting Trump out and hopeful expectation that once his grip on voters is term limited out, they will become quiet country club conservatives again. Fat chance. The 2026 midterm has now become an anti-incumbent insurgency from Republican voters that can be spoken of in the same breath as the Tea Party, and it will go far to determining what a post-Trump GOP will look like. Trump is the most important political figure in American politics, but he is not the sun, the moon, and the stars. The voters are, and it is by their lights that the president navigates the ship of state. The message to the remaining Republican incumbents this cycle is clear. Don't tell us your philosophy and don't spar with the president. Just tell us what you're going to get done and how. I thought that was a very good point from David Marcus. A couple quick things I see that which piggybacks right onto that. Senate Republicans don't have the votes to fund Trump's ballroom, it is being reported. Senate Republicans on Wednesday indicated they expect the funds intended to secure the planned East Wing project to be stripped out of the single-party package because they lack the votes to include the money in the bill. Adding to the troubles, Elizabeth McDonough, the Senate parliamentarian, ruled that language fails to pass muster with the strict budget rules for what can be included in the $72 billion proposal for border security priorities. Senator John Kennedy said, "We're going back to square one. What I'm told is it's not based on an interpretation by the parliamentarian. The votes are not there. If we go forward, we will lose." But on a different note, man, that is loud. I keep doing that. Trump officials say they can build a 250-foot arch without congressional approval. All right, there's a couple quick things. We have a couple anti-Trump comments to just quickly read. Then we're going to get into Iran. We've got some, maybe I won't, I don't. We got some New York State updates as well. And don't forget, in about 10 minutes, we're going to hear from United States Air Force Heritage of America Band. So stay with us. Wow, time's flying. I'm late. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
I'm a different kind of threat. You can't call the cops on me. I don't even have to break in. I'm invited.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We get the chance to dry out a bit today as we gradually clear, seeing some sun eventually, a high of 64, a little on the cool side. Temperatures falling near 40 overnight, continuing to be a bit below average. By Friday, topping off with some low 70s, and we'll see an approaching system bring a few showers. Temperatures get knocked back down a peg as we have showers on Saturday, then we'll rise back toward 80 by Tuesday.
A Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So Iran threatened to strike beyond the Middle East if the U.S. resumes attack. That's coming off the heels of Trump and Vance saying progress is being made toward a deal while keeping open the threat of renewed strike. I guess Trump and Netanyahu had a pretty testy phone call, is what's being reported by the Wall Street Journal and others. Israel worries a bad deal could derail strikes to further degrade the regime, so we'll keep an eye on that. Now, experts raise eyebrows. I don't know if you saw this piece where they were talking. Well, let me give you the background. A New York Times report. Now, the New York Times heavily criticized. There's a potential libel suit against them by Israel because of that attack piece on Israel. Now they report a claim that U.S. and Israel officials explored a shocking possibility of elevating former far-right hardliner Iranian President Ahmadinejad as Iran's new leader. Oof. While both Washington and Jerusalem refrained from denying the story, experts told the Post there's likely more to that story. This story is like Swiss cheese with a lot of holes, said Benny Sapti, an Iran expert at Tel Aviv University. The report published Tuesday suggested a February 28th strike on Ahmadinejad's home had been designed to free him from house arrest, not kill him. But Sabib said the idea of the deeply anti-Israel former president would be so unreasonable to the Jewish state that it casts doubt on the idea that Washington and Israel would have wanted him to fill a leadership vacuum in a post-regime Iran. Israel would never want Ahmadinejad to be the leader because since 2005, he brought out again the anti-Semitism of Tehran and said the famous sentence, quote, "Israel must be wiped out of the map of the world." He did a lot of anti-Semitism conferences and the competition of cartoons against Jews and anti-Semitic short movies, things like that. The report claimed Ahmadinejad was even on the plan to some extent, but because disillusioned with the regime change plan, followed the strike on his home that injured him. As for responses to the report, neither the White House nor the Israeli Prime Minister's office would confirm or deny the allegations. White House spokeswoman Ann Kelly said from the outset, President Trump was clear about his goals for Operation Epic Fury: destroy Iran's ballistic missiles, dismantle their production facilities, sink their navy, and weaken their proxies. The United States military met or exceeded all of its objectives, and now our negotiators are working to make a deal that would end Iran's nuclear capabilities for good. Anyway, just you may have seen that report. Also, Trump says, I know I'm moving fast. Trump says he is willing to talk to Taiwan leaders, which is a major departure. We're going all international, from diplomatic norms. United States President Donald Trump has raised the prospect of speaking to Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, in what would be an unprecedented move for a U.S. leader and a major departure from diplomatic norms. U.S. and Taiwanese presidents have not spoken directly since 1979, when Washington shifted diplomatic recognition to Beijing from Taipei. I'll speak to him, Trump said. I speak to everybody. We have that situation very well in hand. We'll work on that Taiwan problem. It's not clear whether the Trump administration has moved forward with any plans for a call. Okay, I've got to mention this because we're coming up on our guests, and I will read your comments. To the viewer who wrote this in, well, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Let's talk about this beauty. I just can't believe this is true. Yeah, we actually talked about it quite a bit yesterday during the broadcast, but I know some of that got lost because we were reading numbers from the school board and like that. But New York lawmakers were debating a $250,000 gift for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. Yes, we talked about it at a time when there's a mass exodus of people. Your kids and your grandkids leaving the state, our taxes through the roof, our utility bills through the roof, our lack of freedoms, all of that. And what are the Democrats, and it was a group of Democrats in Albany debating and talking about whether or not the taxpayers should be on the hook for $250,000 for security for Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's wedding. Billionaires combined, I would assume, that we as taxpayers should help fund their security detail. That is how unserious, unintelligent the conversations are in Albany by one-party rule with the Democrats. That was, I don't know if they were trying to get an invite for themselves by pushing the bill. I don't know if it was to get attention, but that's what happens when you're in a bubble. And everybody in that room, not everybody, but the Democrats run the Senate, run the Assembly, and run, obviously, the governor's mansion. When they have that much say, they throw all these things on the wall and see what sticks. They want to just get the attention. They don't realize in the quote-unquote real world, you and I, that that's outrageous and offensive that they would even have that conversation. Just to have the conversation is offensive. Just to have the conversation is some of the dumbest political moves that I've ever heard of. It's very akin, like I mentioned yesterday, to the 750, I think it was 750 cow limit for farmers by those assembly people from, I think it was, I know one was from Manhattan. I can't remember who the other one, where the other one was from. Deciding what farmers here in upstate should have, probably never even visited upstate, how many cows they can have on their farm. They have nothing but free time and money. And so they're coming up with more audacious, more radical ideas. This case, I think it backfired so poorly when the news came out that they said it will not be in there, that it will be dropped. But you never know with one-party rule. You never know if the conversation continues. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. But yes, we covered that a lot yesterday. Okay, one last thing. I just want to, right before we go to break, and we've got the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band interview coming up next. You don't want to miss it. But 9 of the 10 best American cities in which to live, you'll never believe it, are located in GOP-led states with mayors that lean into conservative values like law and order and more accountable government spending. Quality of life, affordability, a strong job market, and overall desirability were taken into account when ranking the best places in the U.S. to settle down. The top-notch cities were revealed by U.S. News and World Report this week, and only one landed in a blue state, which happened to be Rochester Hills, Michigan, which was ranked in the 7th spot. Here we go. Number 1, Carmel, Indiana. Number 2, Fishers, Indiana. Number 3, Flower Mound, Texas. Number 4, Ankeny, Iowa. 5, Johns Creek, Georgia. 6, Hoover, Alabama. 7, Rochester Hills, Michigan. 8, Linder, Texas. 9, Frisco, Texas. And 10, Sugarland, Texas. So there you are. Nearly all the cities in the top 10 have populations under 115,000 people, and all of them boast median monthly rents that are less than $2,000 per month, according to the report. There you are. No surprise. Stay with us. We're going to hear from the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band when we return. After that, we have some New York State updates. I want to read your comments, get your perspective, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
My brother, William Matar, is known for being a good guy. Sweet, caring, a rock. But don't let his calm exterior fool you, because deep within him is a killer instinct. Okay, it's deep within him. Really, really deep. But it's in there, and he uses it to take on big insurance and win. So if you're hurt in a car, call William Matar, my sweet, killer instinct brother. 444-4444.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
My mom is a veteran and she was injured in the line of duty.
I hurt my leg in a training accident when she was only 2 years old.
She had 7 different surgeries over the span of 9 years, and there were tons of complications.
I couldn't be the mom my kids needed me to be.
She missed so much.
After my last surgery, I got an infection so bad I thought it was going to kill me.
I told her she couldn't leave me yet. There was still so much she had to see. I hadn't even graduated.
I'm doing much better now. I'm an active part of my kids' lives.
She can kick a mean soccer ball.
DAV's been there for me and my family. Through thick and thin, they've had our back.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans like Sandy get the health and disability benefits they've earned so they can achieve victories great and small.
My victory is getting my life back. I may have lost my leg, but I've gained so much. I got my joy back.
We got our mom back, thanks to DAV.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that Zoom studio, it's time to talk about the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band. Guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about the history of the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I believe our organization was founded, or initially began, I want to say sometime in 1943, 44, somewhere around there, kind of around World War II time frame. And it's been active ever since then. We are stationed at Joint Base Langley Eustis, which number of changes. At one point it was Tactical Air Command, and now it's been Air Combat Command, I believe, since the 90s.
Okay.
And this is home, where we're stationed is home with the first fighter wing, so the jets that go out and defend us when bad things are happening. So where we work, right across the road is the flight line, and you might hear a couple jets flying here and there.
With all the noise, how do you practice?
That's a good question. At this point, I feel like we've just kind of gotten used to it. It's loud enough that it sets our car alarms off sometimes. But if there's a really soft section that we're practicing, just stop for a little bit. If someone's talking, it's totally normal for someone to just stay silent until it passes, and that's just become kind of a daily routine. But we're right next to the flight line, right next to the runway. Wow. So it is pretty awesome to see. I will say, I'm sure. It can interrupt us on occasion, but it's pretty cool seeing these jets take off and seeing what they can do.
I'm sure. Now you're based there, but you have a lot of shows throughout the year, don't you?
We do. So our band specifically. So the group that we're going to be playing with is United States Air Force Heritage Brass. It's a brass ensemble. Okay. We're part of a larger organization called the Heritage of America Band. Gotcha. And we have a concert bowl. We have 2 woodwind quintets. We have a rock band. So we have a large amount of capability in terms of what we do, different genres that we play, and we tour up and down the East Coast. Okay. So we tour everywhere from South Carolina all the way up to Maine.
Wow.
And that keeps us pretty busy, and especially with these small groups, we're able to kind of branch out and go at different times, and it kind of maximizes our capability and our outreach in these various communities.
What does a tour look like for you? You know, you leave base, you got a group of guys with you. What's the life on the road look like?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pass it over to Levi. He's actually the one. He's our booked all the events. He handles all the logistics. So he is definitely one of the experts to answer that.
Yeah, thanks for handing that over to me, Brian. I've been doing tour managing for this group for about 3 years now. And it definitely is a logistical heavy lift, so to speak. It's always kind of like putting together a puzzle. Essentially, our leadership and higher up Air Force leadership will tell us we want to go to a certain area, and interact with the public or deliver strategic messaging. And then from there, they kind of pass it over to me or someone in my position, and we reach out, find suitable places to perform, sponsors or venues that would like to host us. And then that's kind of like the bare bones.
Right.
Once we get all the events confirmed, then the real hard work begins of how can we have a lasting impact to the area we're going. And so this tour specifically is Memorial Day themed, thanking service members, veterans, the people that came before us. And we're trying to really hit home on that one. One of the places we're performing on this tour is actually the town of Waterloo, which is where Memorial Day was born.
Yeah.
So we're trying to tie that in here a little bit, and we perform pieces that really hit with that. And then, so now we've got the venues, we've got our kind of topic that we're covering. Then we try to get key stakeholders involved, civic leadership, local organizations, and really try to make it impactful, engaging with schools, engaging with potential recruits, things of that nature. And yeah, we just try to leave no stone unturned when we come to an area.
I think that hits the nail on the head. Normally when we go out, we'll be on tour for roughly 9 to 10 days at a time. So about 8 performances, depending on what we're doing. Like Levi said, this is for the most part Memorial Day themed community outreach events. We also we've done like entire just kind of travel around, focusing on the Air Force's recruiting initiatives. So it really depends kind of on what our main objective is. But for this one specifically, we're playing a lot of really great halls. For the most part, most of our concerts are going to be at night. It's a lot of travel back and forth, as you can imagine. We're kind of going all around upstate New York, but it is extremely rewarding, and we always look forward to just trying to immerse ourselves and meet these different communities that we're so privileged to. So,
how long have each of you been involved in music? Is this something kind of a lifelong passion?
For me specifically, I've been playing the trumpet for about 25 years now.
Okay.
It was kind of my grandfather played the trumpet, my dad played the trumpet, and my grandfather was in World War II. He was on these bombers. They're called the Flying Fortress, and underneath these bombers, they would have these like spot for like a turret gunner, and he was a turret gunner at the time. So I had just finished, for example, my master's degree in music performance, and I heard about a vacancy open in the Air Force bands, and I was like, this is perfect. I've been playing the trumpet at that time for about 16 years, and it just be. But yeah, most people in our organization have either a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in music performance. Wow. Some even have doctorates as well.
Yeah, and like Brian, I've probably been playing percussion and drums for 24 years, something like that. I also went to school, bachelor's degree, master's degree in music, and the Air Force, I think, provided both of us an opportunity to do what we love and make a living doing it. So it's great. It's a good life.
Well, and with this, is there various kinds of music that you play, or is it all kind of one sound, if that makes sense? I know the theme is Memorial Day, but what kind of different genres are played?
When people think of military bands, a lot of times they think we just play marches,
Yeah.
which is not true, but also true. If you come to our show, you will hear some marches. We have a tune where you'll hear roughly, I think, 26 marches in about 7 minutes. I don't mean to give away any spoilers there, but it's pretty exciting. But we play everything from we play classical music, we play marches, we play pop music, especially for our school shows. We do a lot of like up-tempo pop kind of stuff that kids listen to, and we kind of incorporate that for this Memorial Day show. We're going to have something for everybody. Like I said, jazz, classical, pop, marches, all of it. So there's going to be definitely something for everybody.
How many songs are you prepared to play? Like how much, I guess I should say, how much like practice goes into these performances to get ready for the performance?
Well, we always want more.
Yeah.
But with other things going on, we never seem to have that much time. So for this one, I think we're preparing for about 8 days.
Oh.
I think total we have about 7 or 8 rehearsals total. But I think number of pieces we're doing, I think we're doing probably about 11 or 12.
Wow.
Something like that.
But yeah, normally there's a pretty quick turnaround, just based on what we have to do. Shortly after we get back from this tour, we're going to be with our full concert band, and we're going up to the Boston area. So there's not a ton of time in between. So it's interesting. You'll have some of our people on the road, and we're on the road doing our shows, but they're also practicing for the next thing. So it keeps us busy, but that's just it's kind of what's expected to perform at the level that's expected that we want to perform at. So normally I would say probably like 7 or 8 rehearsals for something like this. So not a ton of time, but like I said, we're at this point most of the group has been playing a long time. It's definitely rewarding, but it can get busy.
Yeah, and like what Brian was saying here, the Department of War, and especially the Air Force right now, readiness is a big factor in what we do every day. And essentially, our readiness comes from being musically prepared to do the jobs we need to do. If, let's say, a president passes away, we provide the military honors for something like that. So at a moment's notice, we could be called to give a ceremony, things of that nature, and just always being ready. And that's just like a microcosm of what the rest of the Department of War is doing every day to protect our freedom. So,
what does a typical show look like? If someone's thinking about going, again, it's free, open to the public Sunday, May 24th at the Clements Center at 2 p.m. What does a show look like so they can become prepared? Excuse me.
Our show specifically, like I said, like there's a wide variety of genres, but our show in length is going to be about an hour and a half. We'll have an intermission. Something that we love to do during our intermission, we love to get out into the audience. We'll go out, we'll talk with people, like it's kind of immerse ourselves in that community. And it's not, sometimes people think of classical concerts, things of that nature being kind of stuffy. We want to be as open and fun as possible. So if anyone has any hesitations, like I don't really know how to act in these kind of settings, I highly encourage anyone and everyone to come out. It's a great time. We love talking to people before the shows, after the shows, at intermission. We will stick around as long as anyone wants to talk. We love doing it, and it's extremely important. I know in some communities, community members have never met anyone in uniform. They may have had family who serve, friends who serve, but they rarely see anyone in uniform. So we're providing a face as what the Department of War, Air Force specifically, what we do. We really try to hone in on humanizing that.
And it must be.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think there's something for everyone in our show. So don't be afraid.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It must be rewarding when you play and it gets through and you're talking to the people from the crowd, because I'm sure you're hearing a lot of wonderful stories. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of like patriotism in their eyes in many ways.
Definitely, and I think I can guarantee that when you come to our shows, you'll leave feeling more patriotic than when you came in. I have a specific example that happened to me 7 or 8 months ago, where I played. I was talking to an individual. He had tears in his eyes, and he said something along the lines of, "I have never felt more patriotic than what I do right now."
Oh, that's wonderful.
Than how I do right now, and that was just a really powerful moment, knowing that I was a part of making someone feel that way and feel such patriotism for this great country. And that's really one of the key pillars that we try to hone in on during our shows.
And especially this being the 250th anniversary. of our country. We're also really celebrating that. So.
And it feels good to have events like this coming to the area. And then you mentioned America 250 and seeing more patriotism. We see even products and food products celebrating America. It just seems like it's been a while since you can feel it in the air, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like everywhere I go, I see Freedom 250, America 250, and it's cool to see. It's pretty wild seeing how every I feel like there's so much branding out there.
I know.
That has it just red, white, and blue all over. But I think that's great, and just being a face to something like that from our perspective and from our organization, it's a very, very powerful but rewarding thing.
All right. Final question. It's an easy one for both of you. I don't know if it's easy. What's your individual favorite part of the show?
I think I might know what Levi's going to say.
Well, I have two favorites of our show, so I don't mean to cop out that way. But one that I have to say obligatory is that me being a percussionist, me and one of my colleagues in our first class, Johnny Barker, are going to be playing a lovely xylophone and marimba duet.
Very nice.
And it's music that was written in about 1920 era, so it's going to really take you back in time. And I think everyone will enjoy that one. It's a very fun piece. But then my other one is we're playing a piece of music, John Williams' Hymn to the Fallen from Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful piece, a wonderful tribute to everyone that's made the ultimate sacrifice, and just saying thank you. So we'll try to really hit home on that one, but that's a beautiful moment for me.
Definitely. And I knew you were going to say the percussion too.
I have to do it.
But definitely, like I said, Memorial Day is a huge part of our show. Hymn to the Fallen, I think, really just kind of hits home on so many levels in that regard. But one of my favorite parts of the show, we always play all of the service songs, our Armed Forces medley, and we ask veterans, family members who have. We want them to stand up for their service song. You recognize, sing along, clap. Just feel that patriotism and
celebrate their service.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, and I think I speak for everybody watching, we want to thank you for your service, and we also can't wait to see you play at the Clements Center May 24th at 2 p.m. Again, free for all. Thank you so much for giving us so much time this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was our pleasure.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Thank you, guys. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tubs and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
It's the home of Tivity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
An act can turn your life upside down in an instant. Pain, medical bills, time off work, it's overwhelming. And when you look to the insurance company for help, they don't see you. They don't see your family or what you've lost. To them, you're just a number, just dollars on a spreadsheet. Their job is to pay you as little as possible. At WDC Injury Law, we see the person behind the claim. We fight for your recovery, your future, and your peace of mind. If you've been hurt in New York, call 607-500-HURT.
Glass Back the Park, presented by Simmons Rockwell. Saturday, May 23rd is Tracy's A Taylor Experience.
Welcome to our tribute to the Eras Tour.
Free and open to the public. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Down in play, I'll write your name.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We get the chance to dry out a bit today as we gradually clear, seeing some sun eventually, a high of 64, a little on the cool side. Temperatures falling near 40 overnight, continuing to be a bit below average. By Friday, topping off with some low 70s, and we'll see an approaching system bring a few showers. Temperatures get knocked back down a peg as we have showers on Saturday. Then we'll rise back toward 80 by Tuesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and we want to thank our friends from the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band for giving us so much time this morning. They're going to be at the Clemens Center this Sunday at 2 p.m. The performance is free and open to the public to get in the spirit of Memorial Day. So we thank them for being on the program. Don't forget, tomorrow, Steuben County Legislative Chair Kelly Fitzpatrick will be our guest. So get your questions in ahead of time if you do not mind. I know we are running a little late, so we're going to take another break here after I read viewer comments. What about our tax money going to New York City so the mayor can open a grocery store run by the city? Sure. What was it, a $4 billion bailout at the very least? A comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. And this is in reference to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and the potential of money from Albany going to, from us, I should put it that way, going to their security during their wedding. This viewer writes, good morning, Frank. As for the upcoming nuptials, the worst part of it is it will probably happen and be embedded in the safety and security portion of the budget, and we will never be the wiser. I agree. I think that if they do actually want to provide security, which I don't think is necessary when you're talking about combined billionaires, but I think they shouldn't have just said it out in the open. That was their big mistake. They shouldn't have said it out loud. And I'm sure they could have snuck it in I don't know what they were gunning for. The Democrats were pushing it where they want an invitation, maybe a thank you letter from Taylor. So they should have just kept it quiet and just snuck it in this $250 billion budget that we're putting together, and one step into that process. Okay. Comment from Rick, who says, good morning. The Trump patriots all deserve a payoff, don't they? What have we become? Getting paid to break into the Capitol. The patriots said that it was a great day's work. I thought they got paid on day one of Trump's second term. Now, Frank, don't tell me you support all this nonsense, do you? Now, Todd Blanche, I got more from Rick, but Todd Blanche insists violent conduct will be weighed when applying for this new anti-weaponization fund, saying one of the factors the commissioner have to consider is what the claimant did, the claimant's conduct. The claimant would have to say, I assaulted a cop and I want money. Whether the commissioners will give that person the money, the claimant, it's up to them. But that's one of the factors that they have to consider. Trump does not stand for assaulting law enforcement. So whenever the commissioner will give the person money, that claimant, it's up to them. Okay, continuing with what Rick had to say, the IRS is now barred from investigating Trump, his family, and businesses for past tax issues. Crook. Trump's good old DOJ. Trump wouldn't have demanded that unless there was a lot of dirt in the past. I think if you're going to do whataboutism, what about the instances of Joe Biden's pardons on the way out the door? Does that mean everyone that he pardoned for years, the blanket statements, was a crook? Is that an admission of guilt? I don't know. Continuing, if your actions have caused a blockade of oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, you don't extend an invitation for others to buy Russian oil to strengthen their battle against Ukraine. You fix the problem you created that has hurt hundreds of millions, if not billions of people around the world. So there's Rick. All right, we got to take a break. We're getting ready to wrap up today's edition. So keep those comments coming in. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go, to where we go, to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Kids Time. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
We got Washington state, and I think a week after, state went on lockdown for COVID.
So then when we transitioned to Texas, it was very much so like, what are we going to do now?
Operation Homefront has allowed our family to make something of ourselves again in the world after the military.
It's completely changed the way our life is. It took us from a hopeless situation, and now we're homeowners. We have a savings account. I'm the first one to own a home out of my siblings.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.
Get ready. Glass Fest, May 22nd through 24th. Brought to you by Chemung Canal Trust. Experience the magic of live glass blowing. From hands-on fun to incredible sights, there's something for everyone. Explore creations from local artisans. 3 days, one incredible celebration. Brought to you by Corning's Gaffer District. On Friday night, it's Drake White with John King opening. On Saturday, Tracy's A Taylor Experience. Join us for Glass Fest. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We get the chance to dry out a bit today as we gradually clear, seeing some sun eventually, a high of 64, a little on the cool side. Temperatures falling near 40 overnight, continuing to be a bit below average. By Friday, topping off with some low 70s, and we'll see an approaching system bring a few showers. Temperatures get knocked back down a peg as we have showers on Saturday, then we'll rise back toward 80 by Tuesday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So yesterday, both the State Senate and Assembly took up the Education, Labor, and Family Assistance Budget Bill, known as ALPHA. The Assembly passed it by a vote of 110 to 34, largely along party lines. As the Assembly hunkered down for a lengthy debate, Assembly Ways and Means Chair J. Gary Petlow likened the situation to a baseball game. Everybody likens it to a baseball game. We're in a 9-inning game, and we are in the first inning. Again, keep in mind, this is May the 21st. Constitutionally, it was due April 1st. Out of the 10 pieces of legislation that make up the state budget, only one has passed so far. The debt service bill, approved ahead of the April 1st deadline in order to prevent the state from defaulting on its loans. An updated and final version of ELFA was introduced Wednesday morning, just hours before lawmakers would begin voting. The other 8 bills are currently outstanding. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano said, finally, after 7 weeks of the budget being late, we're doing our legally obligated duty and beginning to vote. In all my years in the Assembly, I have never seen such a dysfunctional budget process. The worst of all of this is that school districts had their budget votes last night without knowing how much aid they would receive from the state. This was a complete dereliction of duty. But he did highlight what could be one of the biggest victories of the entire budget. The burdensome electric school bus mandate has been delayed, folks, for 5 years due to constant pressure from Palmisano and his Republican Assembly colleagues, as well as local school districts. This is what Palmisano, while he still supports a full repeal of the mandate, this is what the Assemblyman had to say. The electric school bus mandate is still the mother of all unfunded mandates, and the original timeline was not workable, feasible, or affordable, and would have put immense financial strain on both our school districts and local property taxpayers. Electric school buses are much more expensive than conventional diesel buses, and implementing this mandate now would require districts to either cut important programs or have property tax increased significantly. The fact of the matter is that the only reason this delay was implemented was because of the constant and continued pressure applied by our Assembly and Senate Republican colleagues and school districts from around the state. If no one spoke out, Albany Democrats would have never agreed to a delay. I'm happy to report that our efforts were successful. He continued, I can only imagine what kind of outrageous spending hikes and tax increases will be included in these remaining budget deals. But I will not let them pass without a fight. I will debate each bill vigorously because New Yorkers deserve to know what exactly is in the state budget and that our voices are fighting for them. So a major victory, really, in the mandate, the electric school bus mandate, now with that 5-year delay. Not long enough, but kind of the kicking the can down the road scenario where I'm sure in 5 years we'll still be having this discussion of what are they going to do, and they'll delay it yet. Again, now the New York State Assembly Speaker has taken up two, and Phil alluded to this last week, two constitutional amendments being considered to change redistricting process. Carl Hastie said he thinks the legislature is eyeing two constitutional amendments that would change the state's redistricting process. Hastie said one would be related to the timing when redistricting is allowed. The composition Hastie is referring to is the probability of an impasse on the IRC. Following the 2020 census, the IRC went to work on its inaugural map drawing, but Democrats and Republicans on the commission failed to agree on a set of maps to submit to the legislature, which threw the process to the state legislature. Anyway, the very body the IRC was created to take the process away from to begin with. All right. By the way, Hakeem Jeffries is getting some pushback because, remember, his big victory was the redistricting, and then that failed when it came to the Supreme Court. But they're saying that he failed on another level, that he moved cautiously. According to 6 sources, spoke to the New York Focus, all of them who spoke on condition of anonymity, to avoid antagonizing the potential future House Speaker. Some New York Democrats are still fuming about the restrained approach that he took. And this was when he, where it says New York has been effectively locked out of the conversation. Democrats in Albany must wait until at least 2028 to redraw the congressional maps. When the state's top court ordered new congressional maps at the end of 2023, some New York Democrats hope for an aggressive approach that could give the party a better shot of winning several Republican-held seats and beyond. Instead, to the surprise of many, the Democrat-controlled state legislature mostly passed up on the opportunity, making only small changes to maps that had been proposed by an independent commission. Republicans celebrated the legislature's restraint, so he did not do enough back then. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us this morning. We definitely want to give a big thank you to the two gentlemen from the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band. Again, that'll be Sunday, absolutely free at the Clemens Center. Don't miss out on that. Again, get your questions in for Kelly Fitzpatrick, who will be our guest, of course, the chairwoman of the Steuben County Legislature. If you have any questions for her, get those in. She'll be our guest on tomorrow's program. We got a lot of other great guests lined up for next week. Obviously, Memorial Day will not be here, but after that, we've got a lot of upcoming events, a lot of guests. So you'll just have to stay tuned and tune in every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.
At Simmons Rockwell, you'll find brand new 2026 Chrysler Pacifica Select all-wheel drive passenger vans for only $43,999 during the Declaration of Deals event going on now at Simmons Rockwell Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Bath.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Spring endings at the Declaration of Deals this May at Chilson Wilcox. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. And it comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save over $6,000 on a new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Just announced, go topless in a 2026 Jeep Wrangler. And as always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. These deals won't last. Chilson Wilcox. Selling cars a different way. The right way.